Basically in arpeggios and making arpeggios to follow these chords, like in the progression, you know, and to be able to arpeggiate any chord you hear, you just got to know the names of the notes that are in the chord. So you take the first note of the chord or the root, and the third, the major or minor third, and the fifth. And say you're taking an A major chord for an example, then you'd have A is the root, and C sharp is the major third, and E is the fifth. So any place that you can find those three notes in any order, in any position, is your A major arpeggio. I mean, it can look like anything. So without, you know, taking the most obvious ones and simple ones, let's just, you know, come up with a couple off the top of my head and practice those. And let's find an A here. Okay, those are the three notes right there, A, C sharp, and E. Let's make it a little bit more interesting using only those notes and get something that we can practice as a repeating pattern. Okay, let's try this other arpeggio here. Let's try a C major. And C major has the notes C, E, and G in it. So any kind of configuration in and out, up or down of those notes is C major. So let's try it like this. I'm finding that I'd like to have an easier or more interesting way to come down on that arpeggio. So what I'm going to do is come down with a relative chord. You know, I'm going to go up a C major chord, and I'm going to come back down with the relative chord, the relative minor chord, which in this case would be A minor, because C going a step and a half down and changing it to minor makes A minor. So let's take this C and go back down with an A minor arpeggio that looks like this. So it's kind of an interesting way to make something that repeats. You know, the whole point is when you practice an exercise that it repeats, so you can like gauge your speed on it and your cleanliness of it by a metronome or something like that. So it's got to repeat, and it's got to repeat somewhat evenly so you can figure out where the beat's supposed to be in it. So just any kind of thing with an even number is basically easy to start out with. So that's a good one to do right there. Up C major, back down A minor, and so on. A way to practice that with a metronome is evenly, and the whole point of metronome playing is to develop your evenness. So that's the thing that you want to keep in mind. You already know what the notes are. You're going to play them correctly. Now let's make it really even. So what you want to do is get a metronome speed that's slow enough that you can play it clean and evenly. So let's get sort of a metronome sound going here, and I'm going to play this lick that I just played along to it. Okay, so basically what you want to do is get it at a level that's comfortable for you and move it up very gradually. If it seems that you're playing it too fast for yourself, then you should bring it down and don't try to speed it up too quickly. And do this with everything that you know that repeats. Any sequence of notes that you can repeat, you should repeat it with the metronome and get your technique together with that. I think there's a big difference between a player's technique and his creativity. I think technique is like kind of like a bank. You have all this technique in your bank, and like when it's time to be creative, you draw from that. But you shouldn't use technique as a substitute for creativity. You just have to have this arsenal of chops, you know, and then you can break them out when you need to. But that's what the metronome is for, and that's what repeating riffs and arpeggios and patterns or whatever, that's to develop your technique.